Hi everyone, welcome to Dad Makes Things. Today we are going to be making some mead. This will be about the easiest, the most simple mead that you could possibly make. So, things that you'll need: water, honey, and other than that, if you have an airlock, that would be good so that bacteria can't get in, and some way to sanitize this equipment. So that could be this, which is kind of expensive, or it's for more serious brewers. It's called Star Sand. It's kind of the industry standard for sanitizing brewing stuff. Other than that, you can do like a gallon of water and a teaspoon of bleach or something along those lines. There's a lot of different ways that you can disinfect this stuff for basically nothing. If you want to be able to put the mead into a bottle, I suggest using these nice flip tops. They're really good for storing bottles, for storing mead, for storing anything that you're brewing. They flip, you don't have to put on caps and take off caps, and they're just very easy to use. So these flip tops would be desirable if you have them. If not, I would just save it in one of these mason jars. Use a half-gallon mason jars. So the goal for today is to make 1 gallon of mead as easily as humanly possible. So what I did is I stripped away all the stuff that most people have as stuff that you need. And I have a gallon of water and honey. And then I also did get an airlock. If you don't have an airlock, which basically allows the gases to escape from the bottle without allowing, bacteria and stuff to get inside. If you don't have that and want to make it ultra simple, just some crumpled up tin foil would work. There's some other ways to make homemade airlocks for basically nothing. It's just so you have air being able to let it get pushed out. There'll be a positive pressure out and not allow things to get in. So how easy can you get? This is 5 pounds of honey. This is 1 gallon of water. The plan for me is to put in about 2.5 pounds of honey into 1 gallon of water. And what I'm going to do is take out a little bit of water here, just so we can fit all the honey in. So I shook it up. It pretty much seems like it's all dissolved. So basically all I did is put honey into this jug of water. If you wanted a sweeter mead, you'd put more honey in. If you wanted a drier mead, you'd put less honey in. But basically the yeast that we're going to put in there is just going to take what's in there and eat the yeast and produce carbon dioxide and alcohol from that yeast. So if there's a lot of sugars, it will eat what it can and make alcohol, and then have a little bit of the sugars left over, which will be sweet. And if there's not as much sugar or not as much honey in there, it will eat it all. So it doesn't have any of the sweetness over it, and it'll be drier. So let's go to the next step. All right, now we're gonna pitch the yeast. So far, we've had a gallon jug of water. We poured some of the water out. We poured about 2 to 2.5 pounds of honey inside there. We mixed it up so it has dissolved in there. We put a hole in the lid and a little round stopper so that our airlock will fit in there. Remember, you don't have to necessarily use an airlock that you buy. You could just use kind of like crumpled up tin foil. And there's other things I'm sure you could explore. So what I'm going to do is pitch the yeast. This is the yeast I'm choosing. Any champagne yeast would work fine. Wine or champagne yeast will allow for higher amounts of alcohol before it dies. Some beer yeast or ale yeast probably won't give you as much of an alcohol content, as the yeast will die at a certain level of alcohol. Whereas champagne and wine yeasts, they're a little bit more stronger, and they'll be able to produce a little bit higher percentage of alcohol. So I will link different yeast that you could buy in the comments or in the description below. Usually these packets are good for about 5 gallons. I've only got 1 here, so I'm gonna use a little more than half. It's better to put too much in than not enough. So I'm gonna go ahead. One thing to keep in mind, Everything before I brought it out here was disinfected. My hands were washed thoroughly. You want to keep everything as clean as possible, disinfected as possible. So that's just a side note. So I'm going to take off this lid, put it over here, and then I'm going to pitch about half this yeast. Pitching the yeast just means putting it in. All right, so that was about half of this package of yeast. I'll save that other half for later. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to shake it, even though I did shake it for about 3 minutes to dissolve the honey. I'm going to shake it a little bit more because the yeast likes to have oxygen, that it's oxygenated, and we want it to be in there and dissolve all the way around. Once you do that, you're going to want to put on whatever you have on the top for a lock, or for an air lock, so that air can't get inside there. The yeast will pretty easily, I mean, you can infect your batch pretty easily, so you want to be careful about letting air in and out. I have this airlock. Often with these airlocks, people will put in vodka or something that won't allow any bacteria to work in it. I'm just going to put water in it, put the cap on it, and then I'm going to put it inside this airlock. There. So what's happening basically is when the yeast starts to eat the sugars, it's going to emit CO2. The CO2 needs to be able to escape, so it escapes up through here and bubbles out through this water, but it doesn't allow any other things to get inside that could possibly contaminate it. I will have links to these airlocks and stuff like that in the description as well if you wanted to, but you don't have to. So this literally took me just about no time whatsoever to do. We'll see how it tastes. If you want to just do something on the fly, you want to eyeball things and you don't want to have a huge setup where you're getting pots and pans and all this stuff, and you just want to kind of throw something together, this should work. I'll check back with you. I'll show you when it starts to ferment. This will start to bubble up. One thing to keep in mind is that you want to keep this somewhere out of the sunlight, and you also want to keep it at a temperature that's good for your yeast, which will say on the back of your yeast package. I put mine on this little like heating pad here. I mean, it just keeps it just at a perfect temperature, but you definitely do not need to do that. So I'll keep this down here out of the light on my heating pad here, and that should keep it at the exact temperature that I want it to be at. We'll see how it works. Like I said, this is about as easy as you'll ever get if you want to just make your own alcohol at home. So yeah, if you have any questions, please ask me in the comments. Other than that, let's see how this thing goes. Here's the first day of the cider. It's just sitting on this heated blue thing. I put it inside of a pail just in case it has any blow off. You can see it bubbling there. That's just the fermentation happening with the CO2 coming off of it. So yep, day one. Give it a few more days and... Hey everyone, it's been a while. The mead I think is finally done fermenting. It has been a lot longer than I thought it would be. It's been a couple weeks and it was just fermenting this whole time. So yeah, the next step is I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to pour it into these glass jars and then let it sit a little bit, a couple weeks, and it'll clear. Sometimes people will take bentonite, order bentonite, and I can put that down in the description below. But bentonite, they mix it in with their mead and that just kind of collects things and makes things clump together and fall down, and it's a clearing agent. I'm not going to do that for this one because I'm going for the simplest yet good tasting mead as possible. So I'm going to skip that step and see how it turns out. So what I'm going to do here is just simply pour this into that. So let me get a piece of paper towel. This mead should taste great, I'm hoping. Let's keep our fingers crossed. top off. All right. Let's just put this over here so it doesn't fall. Now, at the very bottom of this, there is already a lot of stuff that's fallen down, the different yeast, and that's cleared down to the bottom. So I am going to pour this in here, but I'm going to pour it very, very carefully so I don't stir it up in the process. So I'm going to just very gently pour it and keep as much down at the bottom as possible. And this will this will probably take 2 of these jars to fit, maybe a little less. So let's go for it. As gentle as possible. It smells great. Okay, so that's one of the jugs. Now I'll put the lid on here, get another one of these jars, and just finish out the rest of it. So that's the plan. I'll see you back here when this stuff is cleared. Welcome back. We have now got some very nice mead that's cleared out. Last time I saw it was nice and hazy, and now you can see, if you look, that it's extremely clear. You can see right through it. It is all cleared down, and it's ready to drink. So there's nothing much left to do here except for give it a try. So that's what we plan to do. So let's open this bad boy up and drink some. Things to keep in mind. There's a lot of different ways people do this. Remember that this is just the way that I did it. My goals were not to have, everything particularly perfect down to the last little minute detail. It was like, let's make a good mead in a good amount of time where it doesn't take, all this different equipment and all this stuff. Let's like make a simple mead, but tastes really good and something that we can enjoy. So let's pour it up. Try a little bit here. Ooh, it's super clear. Very nice. Woo, smells good. Can't wait to try it. Here we go. Ooh, very good mead. So yeah, if you want a simple mead that works, doesn't take a lot of stuff to get going, doesn't take a lot of equipment to get going, super simple recipe. This is your stuff. This is really, really good. You could really enjoy this. A lot of people back flavor it as well too. So you could add different flavors once it's finished. Here's the simplest version. I hope you enjoyed this. Excellent mead recipe. Dad makes things out. With a quick update, I put some of that mead in these flip top bottles. And it's been a couple weeks, almost probably a month, and I poured myself another glass of it. It's really good. Let it take a couple of the bottles if you choose to put them in bottles, and let it just sit for a couple months. It seems like it gets better and better as time goes on. So just wanted to let you know, if you want to, it might be fun to just experiment with letting it kind of age just a little bit. Just thought I'd let you know.